Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Pinkston, and welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. I am bringing you another episode of some wonderful information, but as always, bringing in a good guest. I am bringing in the elite guest this week, and so finally got Jim LaValle back, and so looking forward to hearing a little bit about what he's doing now. Jim LaValle, if you know, because I've mentioned him 1,000 times, he is very intricate in helping me in my weight loss journey. I lost 180 pounds. And so that began way back going into A4M, the American Academy of Anti-Aging and Regenerative Medicine, which he's co-chair. And the other thing is, though, we work together at a Performance Health Center in the LaValle Performance Health Center in Austin, Texas, or Cedar Park, Texas, with Ray Solano and PD Labs. And so, Jim, I could keep talking forever with your CV. Welcome in. I am always honored to have you on.
Good to be here. Love it, Marianne.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're always spreading the word.
Well, that's what we got to do, Jim. I'm just following your lead. Absolutely. So we have watched you over this last year work with Lifetime as their chief scientific officer now. You're doing some pretty great stuff. Talk to me about that.
Well, I think it's amazing. Lifetime, is also known as the Healthy Way of Life company, and they're kind of committed to really showing people that lifestyle matters, that, a lifestyle of exercise, watching what you eat, getting your chemistry under control, mindfulness, really, trying to, shape a lifestyle that promotes living what I call a performance health life, have the best performance you can out of your health. Absolutely. As you're aging. And, when we get in our 60s, we get even more interested in it, right? So from my end, it's like I'm immensely interested in it. And it's exciting because we're using the Metabolic Code platform there. We're going to be able to show data on how the platform makes it easy for practitioners to be able to really work with people and get to the root causes. I'm not a big single root cause person. Yeah. I think people have multiple issues most of the time. It's keeping them from their best health. And it's just been amazing. I mean, they're an A-class organization, and I'm really blessed that they consider me to be their chief science officer, and we're really putting some effective programs together for people. So excited about it.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see it. I joined Lifetime at one point and loved it. I love their approach that they are on the cutting edge and the side of trying to help you build from the bottom up with your health. You can walk in. I walked in there 300 pounds. And, there was always trainers and people who were there to, look at body fat percentage and nutrition and break it down and work with me from the bottom up, not just walk in and, you always feel embarrassed to walk into a place like that and start working out, all the fit people around you. I didn't feel that way. So Lifetime was very, very helpful for a long period of time. So congratulations. I think this is a big jump for you. So tell us a little bit about Metabolic Code then and where you're turning with that, because we've talked about Metabolic Code. Ray and I, we spend a week a month on Metabolic Code and also on the weight loss, but the performance health, building your health from the bottom up. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I can't be more excited about it. It's been I guess the opus of my career and labor of love. It's taken quite a while to get it where it is. And, now we're, obviously in Lifetime, but, big publicly traded company, 180 facilities. Really, they could reach up to 10 million lives. Got 2.5 million, 1.8 members. And that, of course, means 2 members per family. So it's more like 2.5 million members. Right. So that's exciting. We are launching it into Avexius, which is a group of 4,600 doctors and 1,600 clinics. Yeah. So we're going to be getting data from them. And then, of course, we're working with, U.S. Special Forces to get Metabolic Code in to help our folks that are in the armed forces to help dial in their chemistry and help them really work at their best. And we've been doing education with them for the last 8 months. And, we're really looking forward to being able to work with them. And then, of course, there's the ongoing kind of extensions of, moving into performance and looking at, professional teams and those kind of things as well. So we're excited. It's good. And we keep evolving it, right? We just keep evolving it.
So for those who don't really know what Metabolic Code is, it's a huge platform, as you've heard, that, you can get your laboratory work, and it breaks down those causes, as you said, of what is going on with your health, from your, cortisol and adrenal system to your, thyroid and all the endocrine system, and into your gut health, your GI system, pulls all of those things and more, pulls all of those things together. And you have a professional who's behind that, medical professional behind that, telling you and guiding you on what's wrong and giving you, a stepwise progression, again, like Lifetime, beginning with you from the bottom up. And that is where Metabolic Code helps. So that combination, Lifetime and Metabolic Code, is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing about Metabolic Code is, it's easy to make simple things simple. It's easy to make complex things complex.
True.
It's hard to make complex things simple. So when you're talking about looking at everybody's symptoms, their biometrics, soon to be their wearable data, looking at their labs, and then meshing that together to kind of fill 5 buckets of dysfunction in your body, right? And their relationships. And the reason we did it that way is to keep it simple so you can stay on target with your client or your patient. It's, where do I need to start? What's the biggest area that's disrupted? Not everybody's a Spartan. I call Spartans people that, it's like me. I mean, if Marianne, if I came to you and you said, here are the 10 things I need you to do, I'd ask you, how come you're not giving me 12?
Right.
Because I'll do all of them. But not everybody's there. They need to start at a specific point, build from the bottom up, create a logical progression of repairing things in a way that starts to get your body to work in harmony. Because the one thing I try to get across to people, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you got all these great organs that are doing great, man, your kidneys aren't doing so hot, you better work on those kidneys and get the energy up in those kidneys, because there's a lot of evidence that says you'll age at the rate of that weakest organ, So, that's why it's so important to kind of make it simple and make it targeted. And that's what we tried to do. There's a lot of systems coming out there. I think that, ours still is, probably the most comprehensive and complex, able to take as much information as possible and then distill it down into simple terms. Agreed. So that's what we're, really focused on.
And that's what I learned from you way back. This has been probably 15-year journey, but a really hardcore 7 years at working at my health, and still not there. So it is a hard job to take your health and turn things around.
But it's worth it.
I don't know why we pick our 50s and 60s to finally get our brain together and see in the end, right? It's like, I'm not as, I am fallible. I'm not as young as I used to be. So get on it.
That's right. It's never too late.
Well, and so turning a little bit toward the LaValle Performance Health Center, we've done a lot there with weight loss and, with the Metabolic Code and getting your health together. But weight loss has been the hot topic lately, Jim, and the GLPs. Where are we going wrong?
Well, I think the biggest thing we're going wrong is people are taking too strong a dose and they're not relying on changing their lifestyle in order to really create health out of that opportunity. What we call it, at Lifetime, and what I call it is it's your lifeline. It's that patch that when you've exercised and dieted and it hasn't worked, it's that lifeline that gets you started. But if all you do is, inject a GLP, you're not going to get the results that you want, because you're going to lose a lot of lean mass. Absolutely. And you lose, and look, it's no different than if you were put on a medical weight loss plan. You lose about 30 to 40% of your lean mass in those events. And you got to remember, lean mass is what's going to help you age gracefully, right? It's, the whole term is the currency of aging. You want to be able to maintain lean mass. And so for the people that just call in and say, hey, give me another shot, I feel great, they're only as good as that next shot, because when they stop, they haven't corrected their chemistry. And if you don't correct the reasons why you got there and needed the GLP-1 to begin with, needed to correct your insulin resistance, which, your glucagon goes up, and now all of a sudden you're storing fat like a champ and you can't get to that fat to burn it. Well, then that's the big issue, right? So I think for people that are just, give me the shot, I'm going to be on that forever, you're losing out on the opportunity to actually get your health back.
Absolutely.
And so that to me is the single biggest challenge is too big a dose right away. Therefore, you get the side effects. And then if you do, you don't have the side effects, if you're not really working towards working out, hey, how am I going to change my diet, choose healthier foods, manage my stress, repair my gut, you're not going to get the lasting benefit and the opportunity to wean off. Right. So, right. Using lower dose titrations where you can kind of titrate up to where you're losing weight and not have to rely on the maximum dose. When you go to come off, your body isn't as dependent on that big dose of a GLP-1 like semaglutide or tirzepatide. And now, of course, retatrutide, that people are, what I think are falling in that category. The folks that are getting that they need to, combine lifestyle change with it, I think are much more satisfied over the long haul.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's something I had to learn. I spent 13 years obese and probably 10 years of that back and forth, not realizing that everything you do and use as a tool is a tool for weight loss. I thought those things would solve the problem, but actually that was not the solution. It was the tool to help me change things up, get the lifestyle on track, and finally make a turn. So a lot of patients I've noticed in this weight loss journey, who are finally getting it and finally trying to make a turn. I don't think they really understand how GLP works and what it does to help, what it really corrects and how to use it. How would you give advice in that direction?
Well, the first thing is it helps, better insulin secretion and better insulin receptor action. But more importantly, when you get the glucagon inhibiting effect, right? That's what's important, because when you get insulin resistant, you start making a lot of glucagon from your pancreas. And what glucagon says is keep the fat storing, basically. So until you turn that off, you can diet and exercise all you want, and you might not see the scale move that much. Now, obviously, the younger you are, the better shot you got at that. Diet and exercise might work on its own, and that's fantastic. But if you are, insulin resistant, and estimates 38% of the U.S. population is insulin resistant, 12 to 13% diabetic, you're in that category. And so getting to correct how your glucose and insulin are relating to each other and signaling for the proper use of energy and not the storage of energy as future energy, fat, that's where it really is at. So then you have to look upstream and go, well, why is that glucose and insulin off anyway? Right. Is it because I triggered inflammation in my body because maybe I have food sensitivities, my gut barrier's broken down, or my hormones off? I mean, all of these things. Do I have high stress? I mean, what is it that is making that happen so that you correct that as well while you're utilizing that lifeline, to help correct the glucose and insulin relationship?
Absolutely. Thank you for explaining that. I can explain it all the time to patients, but that was put beautifully. So many people say, I used to be able to lose weight in my 20s. I could just exercise and change up my calories, lower my calories a little bit and just drop weight. Then you get to a place where you have a different set point. Your body no longer wants to work with that or work with you. And no matter what you throw at it for a year or two, it won't lose. And that is the reason why, right there. Exactly it. So we are going to come upon a break in just a minute. And I know that there are many people out there who want to lose weight more naturally. They don't want to do the GLPs. So we're going to talk about that in the second half. But what about for those people who really are scared to use it and scared, they think that they're going to become addicted, or, they just want to do it the right way, but they can't. They've been trying for a long time. I know you just explained some of that, but what is something that you can, something that you can use for patients who have that direction?
Well, I mean, I'm a huge fan of, what do you use to help that glucose and insulin relationship? And if you're under stress, which is probably one of the biggest reasons that people end up really getting insulin resistant, they do fine during the day with their appetite, but eventually that stress hits them and then they just overeat from, say, 5 p.m. on. And, it's just like where's the potato chip bag? Where's the, it's a chronic problem. We see it all the time. Identified that as, somebody, I remember, back in the late 90s, they called it night eating syndrome.
Right.
But it's not a syndrome. People are stressed out and they stress eat. They're trying to eat comfort food because their brain is overheated from all the stress of the day. And you're trying to trigger serotonin. So, I mean, berberine, berberine is a fantastic botanical, works to help with insulin regulation. The biggest issue with berberine is it's only 0.3% absorbed. So when you're 0.3% absorbed, you're not getting all the benefit of berberine. I know you've talked about lipotab technology, which we're really excited about. Absolutely. So we've worked at developing a berberine with bitter melon, which is, bitter melon's used by docs, in Europe all the time as their first line of defense on blood sugars. So berberine in a standardized extract, and then bitter melon in a 10%, Turantin standardized extract. Both of those combined in a liposomal tablet technology allows for dramatically higher absorption, and that means you're going to get more effect on that glucose and insulin. So I highly recommend people either use that coming off their GLPs or instead of, but you got to remember to get that stress under control. So we love things like Relora and theanine. We developed a product called Quicalm for that.
And I want to expand on this. I'm going to interrupt you because we are sliding right into that break because this is great. And I want to come back on the other side. And for those of you who are looking for more information, you can go to Instagram and see the real Jim LaValle. Please look him up. He's got some great reels. And also LaVallePerformance.com. You can find a ton of information about the products we're talking about, of course. See some of our previous shows and whatnot with Ray and I, and Jim and I, Laura LaValle, who was on last week, and I at drpbetterlife.com. I am going to take a short break. We will, and be right back.
Hi, this is Ray Solano with your Healthy Choices Minute, sponsored by Prescription Dispensing Labs. New research has concluded that implementing dietary changes could prevent gut inflammatory processes involved in some chronic diseases. Modulation of your gut microbes through diets enriched with vegetables, legumes, grains, nuts, and a higher intake of plant over animal foods has a potential to prevent intestinal inflammatory conditions at the core of many chronic diseases. In short, the foods we eat in our dietary patterns have a major influence on our immune system that can cause many conditions we are suffering from today. Solution: try our OptiMeal shake. Our team has developed the best tasting, healthiest shake you've ever experienced to control blood sugar and to improve your gut. Start your day today with a healthy choice. Call us today at 888-909-0110 for a free sample of the OptiMeal shake. 888-909-0110. Remember, you have a choice in healthcare.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Dr. Marianne Pinkston, and this is The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. We are coming back off break with Jim LaValle, who is a clinical pharmacist and clinical nutritionist who is certified and board certified, and we are talking a lot about the hot topic lately of GLPs and weight loss, but Jim has a special thread on for those of you who are having difficulty losing weight and, even using a GLP and still not losing weight, or any tool and still not losing weight. What are we doing, Jim?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, one, you can look at, managing stress once again is huge. Even something as simple as box breathing will help get you out of that fight or flight. I think it's really important. You don't have to swallow anything for box breathing, Right. Hold, in 4 seconds on your breath, hold 4 seconds, exhale, and think of the stress you're letting go of, then hold 4 seconds again. So it's a box, 4, 4, 4, 4.
Right.
And at the end of 3 minutes of doing that, think of something you're grateful for, and do that 2 or 3 times a day to let that stress go. And it's huge. If that's not enough, I've used Relora now for probably close to 30 years. I mean, I helped my mentor who developed that, just at our clinic in Ohio, really discovered just how powerful it was in terms of helping people to manage their stress-related weight gain, right? So if we can turn down that impulse control, that desire to go to the bag of potato chips and hug it, we're going to be in good shape, right? And so I think that piece is really important. And you combine that with something like berberine and bitter melon, like what I talked about before, but that compound, that particular ingredient deck in that product includes 800 micrograms of chromium, 2 milligrams of vanadium, PQQ, which, is great as a mitochondrial catalyst, help you with energy. I mean, those are key things, right? You need chromium to make the insulin receptor work, vanadium too, and the bitter melon and the berberine have great science behind them as to what they do. And so I think those are 2 key things. And then, you've got to look at your gut health as well. You can't think, there's a lot of people that don't realize what I have people do is weigh themselves morning and evening. And if, you're gaining 4 pounds and you feel puffy and you feel like, how did I gain all this weight? You didn't eat 4 pounds of food.
Right.
What did you do? And, when you eat foods that you're sensitive to, you don't have to have an allergy, like where you close your airway or get a hive, but you can trigger the release of inflammatory compounds in your gut. And those inflammatory compounds end up acting on your insulin receptor. So the big thing is understanding that insulin resistance, which causes weight gain most of the time. Sometimes it's your hormones when you're postmenopausal and you're not making estradiol anymore and you got hormone imbalance. Okay, we got that.
Yeah.
But other than that, metabolic inflammation or metaflammation means that anything that triggers your inflammatory chemistry ends up creating a situation, and your insulin receptors are right in the crosshairs of that. As soon as you start making more inflammatory compounds, you start affecting the ability of your insulin receptor to open up and catch the insulin. So when it can't catch the insulin, it can't send the signal that it's supposed to make glycogen, store it in muscle. Instead, you get metabolic inflammation and you start to store fat in your muscle.
Right.
And that's one of the things we don't want to have happen. So we know that people, with diabetes, people that are insulin resistant tend to store more fat in their muscle. They can't maintain their lean mass. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you have to identify what are the sources of metabolic inflammation in my body. What's going on with me? Am I overtraining? People can overtrain. They can undertrain. They can eat too much. They can eat too often. They can eat too late. They cannot get enough sleep. These are core things that they can do to correct their health. And they can try, if you've listened to Laura on your show before, she's an expert on diet, getting rid of those high inflammatory foods out of your diet. Take them out for 4 weeks. How do you feel? Did you notice that you're not gaining that 4 pounds from morning to night? Have you noticed less aches, better mental clarity? Because one of the side effects of this whole issue is, remember, dementia is described as type 3 diabetes in many literature sightings nowadays. And so you're heading towards, why is my feeling so foggy headed? Why do I feel like I'm pushing a thought through jello? So, it's one thing to drop weight. It's another thing to lose weight and feel great.
Yes.
Those are 2 different goals.
Absolutely.
If all your goal is I'm going to drop weight, well, a GLP-1 and you're going to probably stay on it forever, that's probably going to keep that weight off, hopefully, depending on what your lifestyle choices are. And then, but if your goal is I want to feel great, well, then you want to address the lifestyle issues that drive metaflammation, because metaflammation leads to inflam-aging. Both terms in the literature, I'm not making those terms up. those terms have been utilized since 2008.
Yep.
We've known about this, but at the same time, it hasn't been talked about nearly enough. Right. I mean, hopefully the Metabolic Code book comes out, the new one, the revision is coming out here I hope in the next 6 months. Yeah, I got to get the edit done on it, but it's going to go through that whole, issue of metaflammation, right?
Which you have talked about. You have talked about for a very long time, and I've loved and followed. And that is where I finally changed. I finally changed my head and was able to finally make those lifestyle changes, lose 180 pounds. Jim, we got about a minute and a half left. Where can people find out more information? I noticed this morning on The Real Jim LaValle, you've got the box breathing described. So tell me, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, The Real Jim LaValle is, on my Instagram, and we got a lot of reels posted thanks to my son. I mean, I got to tell you, before he came in to work with us, he's got his master's in human performance, brilliant young guy, but he's of that generation, right? Until he came on board, I mean, I was not even present, right? But he has done a great job of putting a lot of information up there. You can go to jimlavalle.com. You can go to LaVallePerformanceHealth.com. Metabolic Elite, which is our performance site for people that are into human performance. So those are some key areas people can go to. But I think the Real Jim LaValle is a great spot to start if people are interested in gaining some insights and some cool information in bite-sized amounts.
Absolutely. And those products that you were talking about with the bitter melon, the berberine, is something that you can go to PD Labs for. You can come to me for. So pdlabsrx.com, performancehealth.com, drpbetterlife.com. The last 8 seconds, I'm going to tell you thank you so very much for coming on. It's always an honor. Thank you.
My pleasure. All right.
You have a great week out there.
Thank you.